Yo, what's up, baby? This is Bert Watson, and you're listening to Radio MMA, because this is what they do and why they do it, baby, all night long, because they rolling hard, fast, and on the money.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the show. Let's bring in Trevor Wittman. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great.
Good stuff, man. It's been a few years since we had you on the show, so I appreciate you taking the time out. One of your students, Dwayne Bang Ludwig, has really turned into a great coach. Just talk about him and his improvements with TJ.
You know what? Dwayne is a super intelligent guy, and the main thing about Dwayne, he's passionate. You know, he's always been a guy that will speak his mind. He's always been a guy that will really be honest about what he feels. And as a fighter, being able to coach him through his career, you know, he's a guy who is so darn technical. I mean, I wish all fighters would keep their hands up as well as he did. And when we worked footwork and stuff like that, he wasn't really too into doing the footwork himself. He was more of a straightforward, just go at you type of guy.
Sure.
And I remember when we fought Krause back in the day of the K1 World Back, and I was talking. I'm like, man, we got to get these ankles going and all this different stuff. And to see him as a coach using them now, right. You know, it was a great thing to me, because I'm like, he was listening. You know, it's a cool thing. But he's a guy that deserves all the respect he's getting right now, and I'm just so happy for him. He deserves it. We had a talk after the Dan Hardy fight, and he was emotional after the fight, and he always got a little bit of a tear after a fight, but he was a guy that got a big release for fighting, win, lose, or draw, and he'd be, you know, a happy, joking guy after fight. And after a Dan Hardy fight, he got very emotional, had a towel over his head for a longer period of time, so I kind of took the towel off and said, hey, man, everything all right? And he had this tear in his eye, and he's like, no, it's not this time, because I was going to get a house with the win money. And I did the typical, it'll work itself out, it'll play in to be something better. And
Sure.
He looked at me with that look like, yeah, you're just saying that. And if he would have bought that house, I don't think he would have been able to go out there and take that coaching position, you know, because he had one more fight after that. And he went out there and took the coaching position. Best thing ever happened to him, and it was the right timing. I mean, he was so injured going into all his fights, and it was the time to really start looking for something else. And I mean, timing's everything. So it was just a blessing in disguise.
Oh, very nice story, man. That's cool. So back at UFC 188, I think you made some headlines in the MMA world for your corner stoppage in Nate's fight. Just talk about making that call and how you seen the fight.
You know, it was rough. I tried to stop the fight prior to that round. Like during the round, I was trying to stop it. I jumped up on the canvas, up on the stairs. And typically in boxing, that's the rule to get a fight stopped. And they pulled me back down and said, "You need to get back down." I was like, "Stop the fight!" And they said only the doctor or ref could stop it. So I started searching for a doctor, and I was pissed off. You know, they were more worried about the fans not having a view.
Right.
And so then I was just kind of coaching Nate through the rest of that round. And then I got up there, and I wanted to ask if it was a body shot, so it got me, because maybe he can recover from a body shot, because he was hunching over in a way that I'd never seen from Nate before.
Sure.
And so I asked him, and he told me he had nothing left. And in the first round, after the first round, he couldn't even sit on the stool. He said his legs were locking up. So, I mean, that was, again, another sign. So once he told me he had nothing left, I tried to tell the ref, I was like, that's not the fight. And he tried to ask me, you know, the bait for me to keep it going, and I was like, no, it's already been done.
Wow.
So it's rough to do that for fighters. I mean, just last time I did that was, I'd say back in 2006, and it was against Paul Williams, and my fighter was Bruno Phillips, and we were fighting for the WBO in boxing, and I haven't spoken to the fighter since. He cut out my pay, and a lot of times that happens. When you make a decision, you're in the livelihood of the fighter. When you're the coach, you're making a decision for them. And it was pretty much the same thing. He said he had none left, and I stopped the fight, and it was rough. But, I mean, I was with Verno for 15 fights and 3 world titles, and it was it's rough when you make those decisions. You never know how it's going to turn out. It turned out being good with Nate, where he was able to think it out and say, yeah, it was probably the right call at the moment. So it was great. It was a great outcome, I would say. And then again, in MMA, kind of a weird thing too, because in MMA you'll see you have a win money that comes with winning, so there's always a chance. And then the funny thing is when I was trying to stop the fight before that round was over, right after I was running around and I got down, started coaching him again. I mean, he almost got a leg lock. So I was like, oh. You start playing the mind games with you. Like, maybe should I let it go on? And then you just gotta, you gotta look at the situation and say, what's the best option? Is it worth the risk in the longevity of him being able to go and compete again?
Yeah. Okay, man, you just mentioned leg lock, and that leads me into my next question here. We had Paul Harris versus Jake Shields this past weekend. Did you see the fight?
Yes, I seen the replays. Yes.
Okay, and what did you?
I did not see the eye gouges. I heard about the eye gouges, and so I can't really speak on that.
Right.
But when it comes to the leg lock, I mean, that wasn't a leg lock. That was more coming from the back, and he. Just one thing with his submissions, it's tendencies. It's when you look at someone that are consistently doing things, it's you have to make a decision at a certain point. And whatever the decision with World Series making, I don't know about the locking them up on a definite suspension. Ray Seffel sometimes says something that you might be speaking about what the commission might be doing. I don't know how that works, but yes, something needs to be done. I mean, it's a consistent thing. It's something that fighters make decisions when they're fighting because they're in this adrenaline shot and things are going. Things can happen here and there, but if you're not able to control yourself in competition, this sport is about safety, and you want to go out there and make it as real as you can without damaging someone, especially when they're tapping. But I mean, the tap from Jake Shields and the tap from the ref. The ref's like tapping plus pulling them off. I mean, it's just, it's not a language barrier. It's happened so many times, and it's sad to see. If you meet him on the outside, he seems like a gentleman, but again, it's what's happening in the competition that's just bad for the sport. And this is a sport. It is not brutality, and it's a bad look, and it's something that has to happen. And I'm glad it did.
A lot of the fighters were calling for a lifetime suspension on this. What did you think? Do you think lifetime suspension would be fair?
I think that's more of the commission's things to really to look over. But I tell you what, I wouldn't let my fighter fight him. There's no way.
Right.
If I had a fighter going in there, I mean, it's all about safety. The main thing is if you can jump in to stop something. It's a good thing when a ref can jump in to stop something, but I mean the ref is having to fight him off to get it back. Yeah. And then with the eye gouges again, I can't speak about that. If that's truly happening, I mean that's horrible. I mean you're not paying attention to the rules, and that'll change a fight tremendously. If you're sitting there and getting things, I mean it takes you out of your process of what do I need to do to adapt to win to this fight. How can I counter this move? How can I do this? But when things are happening that you're not prepared for, and then instantly you're like, why is the ref not doing something about this? That'll throw a big stick in the wheel. So it's going into aspects like that. I mean, you don't want to have your fighter dealing with that. And again, I would not let my guy. So if it is a lifetime ban submission once, then I mean it's a good thing. But I understand the fighters saying the lifetime ban because the fighters are like, I don't want to get in there like that. I mean, unless I can do it.
Yeah,
I know fighters would be okay with saying, "Hey, let's keep it even. Then let me do it." But if he's getting away with it on a consistent aspect, it's just bad. It's bad in all aspects.
One of your former proteges, Donald Cerrone, has a title fight coming up eventually here. How'd you see that fight with Dos Santos going?
With the long wait in between, I'd say that'd be the only issue. When Donald has time to think about the fight, that's the worst thing for him. Outside of that, when he's able to just take a fight and go into it, that guy is tremendous as a fighter. And if he could stay out there having fun and doing the things that he likes, I always told him he's the guy that needs to get out there and do all this, the crazy stuff he does, rock climbing, jumping motorcycles. I mean, that guy is crazy. And when he can stay in the mind of not worrying about the how and the when of what can happen, the doubts that can come into fights, man, I think he'd do great with anybody in the world. I think he could win world champions and hold the belt. It's the factor of the pressure that comes with it that I think gets to him. But he's had some experience with that, and I expect him to adapt. I mean, Donald Cerrone is a world-class fighter, and he always turns the naysayers. From you see him competing against guys, and you're just like, God, he goes out there and makes it look so easy.
Right.
Right. He's a pleasure to watch. A good friend of mine, and I'm telling you, like, I hope the best to him, and I know he will go out there and do great. If he can sit out there and just take his mind off the fight, there's no doubt in my mind he'll win that fight. But you remember the first fight. The first fight was awesome. Yeah, I mean, he got rocked with where I remember Anyo's came with like the body shot and the overshot, rocked him a little bit, and then once he recovered, I mean, it was Donald's fight in the end, So it's and Donald knows that. Once he learns someone, it's very hard to deal with him. He's very tricky with his kick. And one thing that he does well is he offbeats you. He's a guy that will fight he's very good at switching gears and making it look like it's going to come quick. Making something look like it's going to be a punch and it's a kick. I mean, he is very, very technical when it comes to that aspect. And I would love to see him as the world champ. It'd be sweet.
Later this month, Justin Wren gets back in the cage after a 5-year layoff. How's he doing?
He's doing awesome. He's actually at the gym right now. He came out for a week to work with Josh Copeland out here. He's a real good friend of Josh Copeland.
Nice.
And so he's out here for the week right now. He goes back on like Sunday down in Texas. But he was gone for a while, kind of finding a lifelong dream and going out there and helping the pygmies and raising money to create water wells out there in Africa. I mean, this guy is he's a fighter in all aspects. So
right.
He's a leader, and it's cool to see him get back in the ring. I mean, he's when I got to work with him after the Ultimate Fighter, there's a few fights we got to do together, and he was always injured going into fights, and he had some things going on. So seeing him healthy, going in and being able to do it again is a very, very cool thing. He's a talented dude, and just a great person all around. He's a great person for the sport, and he fights with so much heart and spirit. So it's going to be cool to see him in the cage again.
Before we let you go, just talk about some of the big fights with some of your students in the gym.
I'm only coaching about 3 or 4 people at the moment. I've got Rose Nemianis, and she's got something coming up here shortly, something that we can't really speak about post-release, but looking forward to that. And I'm back working with Nate Marquardt, so that's a pleasure. I mean, we've always been such good friends. We kind of took a separate path there for a while. And, I'm not really taking on too many more athletes. I've got different ventures going on, and my body's so beat up over the years. I've been doing it since '97, so I'm taking on new passions and personalizing and making custom equipment that I think would change the game. And got some new releases and patents coming out that are really, really sweet again that I think will benefit athletes' longevity, because I've dealt with so many fighters having to retire because of injuries like Shane Carlin and Dwayne Ludwig, but the brand is called One on One, and we've got some cool technical aspects coming out. Also, that for longevity of coaches, because I'm beat up, man. My arms, my elbows, and all them big punches have broken me down.
Wow.
So when it comes to the guys coming up, I mean, Justin Gaethje's one of my guys. And the commitments that I have with fighters, I will stay with, but I haven't taken on anymore. I mean, I've hit all my goals as a coach, and man, I'm a goal-setting guy, so I'm always looking to do things that will benefit the sport. And I think I found a new thing that will really benefit the athletes, and my passion is the fighters. Because without the fighters, there's no fight, there's no managers, no promoters, you know what I'm saying?
Well, thanks very much for doing this, Trevor, and hopefully we talk to you again soon down the line.
Yeah, no problem. Give me a call anytime.